Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we have been given this great joy of sharing his life and teachings. The best way, of course, would be to just be, but that doesn't stop us from talking or singing or dancing or doing everything. That's what we see in Bhagavan's life. That's what he lived to show us, that the being is all pervading, all inclusive. It does not exclude anything. I would like to start off with uh, a snippet of a song by Puti Narsimachar, a renowned poet of Karnataka, which depicts a scene, maybe a day, a moment in Bhagavan Ramana's life. ಈವರಿವುದನೆಲ್ಲ ಹಂಚುವನೋ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಮುನಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿಯೇ ಹೇವರಿಕೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಲಿಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲದ ಸಮತೆ ರಮಣ ಆಶ್ರಮದೊಳು ಅಮ್ಮಯಿಸಿ ಹಸುಬಹುದು ಮುನಿಯೆಡೆ ನಾಯಿ ಮುದ್ದನು ಬಯಸುತ್ತ ಸುಮ್ಮನಿರುತ್ತೆಲ್ಲರನು ಸೊಗದೊಳು ತಣಿಸುತಿಹನಿ ಮಹಿಮನು ಸುಮ್ಮನಿರುತ್ತೆಲ್ಲರನು ಸೊಗದೊಳು ತಣಿಸುತಿಹನಿ ಮಹಿಮನು ನಿಮ್ಮವನು ನಾ ನಿಮ್ಮವನು ನಾ ನಿಮ್ಮವನೇ ನಾನೆನ್ನುತ್ತ ನಿಮ್ಮವನು ನಾ ನಿಮ್ಮವನು ನಾ ನಿಮ್ಮವನೇ ನಾನೆನ್ನುತ್ತ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆಯ ಸುಮ್ಮನಗೊಳಿಸುವ ಸುಮ್ಮನಿರುತ್ತಲೇ ಯೋಗಿಯು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆಯೇ ಸುಮ್ಮನಗೊಳಿಸುವ ಸುಮ್ಮನಿರುತ್ತಲೇ ಯೋಗಿಯು ಅರುಣಗಿರಿಯೊಳು ರಮಣ ಯೋಗಿಯ ಪರಮ ಪಾವನ ದರ್ಶನ ಅರುಣಗಿರಿಯೊಳು ರಮಣ ಯೋಗಿಯ ಪರಮ ಪಾವನ ದರ್ಶನ. The words of this great poet Putina never fail to amaze me. Each time I remember them, I sing them. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆಯೇ ಸುಮ್ಮಾನಗೊಳಿಸುವ ಸುಮ್ಮನಿರುತ್ತಲೇ ಯೋಗಿಯು. And they remind me of Bhagavan's own words in Aksharamanamale, where he says, சொல்லாது சொலினி சொல்லற நில் என்று சும்மா இருந்தாய் அருணாச்சலா. He says, oh Arunachala, you told me remain without speaking. Sollara nil, stay without words, stay without speaking, stay without any movement, just be. How did you tell me this? Solladu solini. You told me without telling. You told me without speaking. You didn't use words to tell me to be. சொல்லாது சொல்லி நீ சொல்லற நில்லென்று. And then what are you doing? What did you do? Having told me this, சும்மா இருந்தாய் அருணாச்சலா. You just remained still, silent. Summa, the word Summa in Tamil means just being, just simply being. So this is the state which Bhagavan Ramana's life, every moment of his life reveals to us. As again described here, he is talking of, Putina is describing a scene in Bhagavan's old hall. ಈವರೀವುದನೆಲ್ಲ ಹಂಚುವನು ಈವರೀವುದನೆಲ್ಲ ಹಂಚುವನು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಮುನಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿಯೇ. See, right then, there, if somebody gave something to him and he would only accept what could be eaten, because when somebody asked him, why don't you accept money? He said, one can't eat money. So he would take any eatable offerings he would accept and he would distribute it equally among all those present. It may be a couple of dogs who were there in that room, anybody else who was there, everyone would get an equal share at that very moment. That indicated that the self is equal to all. It is available to everyone. The self does not discriminate. It does not say, I choose A or B or C. Although there is a Vedic statement that the self is revealed to one whom it chooses. At the same time, since the self is all-inclusive, and to reveal this, we say that the self is embodied as Ramana. To reveal the glory, to reveal the beauty, to reveal the simplicity, to reveal the availability of the self. So it was always distributed to everyone equally. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಈವರೀವುದನೆಲ್ಲ ಹಂಚುವನು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಮುನಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿಯೇ. ಹೇವರಿಕೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಳಿಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲದ ಸಮತೆ ರಮಣ ಆಶ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ. So you see that state of being, in that state of being, there are no discriminatory attitudes. There are no rejections. And there are no acclaims offered either. Because everyone is included only in that self. ಹೇವರಿಕೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಳಿಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲದ ಸಮತೆ. And this is actually, again, a very, very special spiritual practice. Not to look upon anything with raga or dvesha, not to hate anything, not to love anything, not to be attracted, not to reject. And if one can look upon everything in that manner, if one can look upon all one's thoughts in that manner, all one's experiences in that manner, with no sense of dislike or like, hevarike or hechalike, without any discrimination, whatever, if one can look upon all one's experiences, then the experiences would no longer have any power over us. The thoughts would no longer have any power over us, and they would automatically subside, leaving us to just be. ಹೇವರಿಕೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಳಿಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲದ ಸಮತೆ ರಮಣ ಆಶ್ರಮದೊಳು ಹಮ್ಮಯಿಸಿ ಹಸುಬಹುದು ಮುನಿಯೆಡೆ ನಾಯಿ ಮುದ್ದನ್ನು ಬಯಸುತ್ತ. Actually, Puti Narasimhachari is describing two of the different forms of beings who came to Bhagavan, who were with him regularly. Cow Lakshmi, some of the dogs, Jackie, was there continuously in his presence doing their tapasya. And the visitors to Bhagavan were not restricted to the cow or the dog. And there were, of course, all kinds of human beings who came. There were sparrows and monkeys, and there were also snakes who would come to him. There was a cobra who would visit him regularly, and Bhagavan narrates how he used to come, and people have seen the snakes sometimes moving all over Bhagavan's body. And when the devotee asked Bhagavan, how does it feel to have a snake moving on his body? Bhagavan smiled and said, it feels cool and soft, which is actually the physical sensation. It feels cool and soft. But he says, when he used to come near my feet, when he used to touch my feet, it used to feel a bit ticklish. So you see, that is the spontaneity with which all beings were treated. Because as Putina says, Summaniru tellaranu talisutihani mahimanu. And he used to satisfy each and every being who came to him. He used to make them feel full. He used to make them feel happy. Why did they come to him? In fact, there's a very touching anecdote of a devotee who came to Bhagavan after his Mahasamadhi. And in the early years, in fact, the early days after Bhagavan's Mahanirvana, in those days, the temple of Bhagavan Ramana, the Ramaneshwara temple, had not been consecrated in a typical manner. The linga was there. There was a small cover. There was a shade on the linga, but it was open space. And this devotee, drawn to Bhagavan at that point of time, coming into the Ramanashramam, went to the Sannidhi of Ramaneshwara Mahalinga, and he saw a cobra around the linga. He saw peacocks, he saw monkeys, he saw dogs, all nestled near the linga, as they would be near Bhagavan, as they would move around Bhagavan, showing to him that there was no change in that Sannidhi. There can never be any change in the power of the self. It is beyond time and space. And that is the beauty. Summaniru tellaranu sogatolu tanisu tihani mahimanu. And what does that state, what is the one in that state, say to each and every one of us? Says Putina, he says, Nimmavanuna, Nimmavanuna, Nimmavanuna Ninnota. To each and every comer into his presence, that presence would say, I belong to you, I belong to you, I belong to you. And we had a very moving incident of this belongingness at the Ramana Shrine here at Bangalore, which was witnessed by the founder of our center and my father, Sarada Natarajan. He would go there every morning for his own puja and dhyana. And one day, and he would go a little later, not very early in the morning, around 10 to 11, he would be there. And one day, he found a young girl, maybe 7 years old, 7 years old. She was in the shrine. She was all by herself. He looked around. He could not see any elders over there. He had not seen this girl earlier. She was not a familiar child who would regularly come to the Ramana shrine. And so he went up to her and he asked her, what brings you here? Why are you here? And she told him, I live nearby, not very far away, at RT Nagar. It's also called Gandhanagar, which is about less than a kilometer away from the shrine. And the traffic was not so heavy in those days. That was more than 20 years ago. She said, my parents were having a very bad quarrel. They've been quarreling for some time now, and it hurts me a lot. And I felt very left out. I felt very uncared for. I felt if they quarrel, they're not worrying about me. They're not thinking about how I would be feeling and what it means to me. I tried saying something in between, but they had no ears for me. And I felt very alone and very lost. And I just walked out of the house. And I just kept walking. And when I kept walking, I suddenly saw this building. And I thought something made me enter inside this building. And I saw this Tata sitting over here. And he told me, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And I'm here for you alone. Nimmavanona. Nimmavanona. Of course, soon after that, her parents did come and take the little girl, but she felt the moment she saw Bhagavan, he says, I belong to him and he belongs to me. That sense of belongingness for which every jiva seems to be thirsting, every being is thirsting, and everyone does God knows what to get to belong to someone, somewhere, to get to belong somewhere. How much the society matters to us, how much others matter to us. Why? Because we feel lonely, because we do not feel that sense of completeness, that sense of belongingness, which actually the self is ready to give to us from moment to moment. And to show that, show the beauty of that explicitly, we found that Bhagavan lived from moment to moment in that abidance, showing how great is the love that emanates from the self. And finally, that line, that unforgettable line of Putina, ಸುಮ್ಮನೆಯೇ ಸುಮ್ಮಾನಗೊಳಿಸುವ ಸುಮ್ಮನಿರುತ್ತಲೆಯು. He takes all the thoughts back to the source. He takes everyone who enters his presence into that silence, maybe to different degrees sometimes. Maybe we are not even aware. Maybe we sometimes feel our mind is still chattering in the shrine or in the presence of Bhagavan elsewhere at Ramanashramam. But if we are alert, we will realize that there is surely a steady current of silence also, which starts springing up, which starts bubbling up, as it were, and then gradually the thoughts would begin to fade away. By that very presence, by that very silence, we are taken into itself, into that silence, the being, the fullness of being. Summana Godisuva, Summanirutale Yogiyu. He doesn't do anything for that, he just remains. And it seems at that point of time, whenever we are drawn into that peace, we are very happy and we would love for it to continue. But something happens. Something happens which prevents us from remaining with that blissful silence. Why talk about this? Every night we go to sleep. Every night we want to go to sleep. Every night we plan to go to sleep. We make every possible arrangement. If there is something that's going to disturb us, either the lights off or the lights on or the fan off or the fan on, whatever will disturb us, we will try to get away with that disturbance. We try to do away with that disturbance and create the best atmosphere, the most conducive atmosphere to go to sleep. And then we go to sleep, hopefully. Most of the time we make. But we remain asleep. We wake up. We close our eyes and go to sleep. And at some point of time, for some reason, we open our eyes. Initially, we open the eyes within. The mind wakes up and it says, oh, it's morning. And I am Sharada. And what am I doing in bed now? When it's already morning, so many things to be done, it says to me. And then my eyes also open, the physical eyes open, and we are up and about doing whatever we have to do during the day, which each of which to us seems to be very, very important. It needs to be done. It needs to be done. It needs to be done right now. It needs to be finished. So many things to do, so many tasks to complete, and all are important and all can be done only by me. Whatever the tasks are that are given to me, and to do all that, I have to act and I have to think and I have to plan and I have to work. That's how our mind pushes us. And we go through one more day, and then end of the day we are tired. So we say, okay, at some point or the other we say, now I will go to sleep. Continue tomorrow. Maybe one night we will stay awake if there's something very urgent. Maybe some of us can stay awake 2 nights at a stretch. Beyond that, even if we want to, our eyelids will close and our head will droop and we want to sleep. But we are not content with that which we get during sleep. We want something else. We believe that we are going to get something during the waking. And so we are not able to just be. When we want something, we have to move towards that something. When there is an object out there, we have to obtain that object, or we have to throw away that object, we have to do something with relation to that object. When there is movement, where is their simple being? Since it is not there, although it is our own nature, although we are able to experience it in a way when we are asleep every day, and although it holds us the promise of joy, we have a small little parable where, a lady goes to her friends and says, please help me. Please help me by not allowing me to fall asleep. My friends are surprised. Why don't you want to fall asleep? You see, what happens when I fall asleep? I lose everything. I lose everything in the world. Such a sad situation. I lose all my belongings. I lose my house. I lose my friends, my relatives. Everything that I know. I lose everything that I know. I even lose my own sense of my name and my body. Everything goes away. Isn't it a sad state? Can we imagine anyone saying this? Can we imagine that somebody would say, never allow me to go to sleep? We don't say it. We enjoy the deep sleep. But then there is something which pushes us out. And therefore, sadhana is given. The sadhana is given, saying, Bhagavan says in Upadesha Saram, cut away the mind, cut away the attention from objects. Drishyavaritam chittamatmanaha chitvadarshanam tatvadarshanam. He says, see, the state in which I am, this which seems to be such a beautiful state of just being, it is not my prerogative. It doesn't belong to me alone. In fact, it is everyone's absolute inheritance. It is their natural state of being. But why is it that you are not experiencing it? Because your attention is elsewhere. So what do we have to do? So we need to not keep our attention elsewhere, which means we should close our eyes. Actually, what does it mean to close one's eyes? What do we do when we open our eyes? When we open our eyes, or why do we open our eyes? We open our eyes because we want to see something. We want to see something which is outside of us. We want to see something which is outside of us, right? Otherwise, why would we open our eyes? We don't need to open our eyes at all if we don't have any need to see something which is outside of us. So the need to see something which is outside of us is what prompts us to open our eyes. And that means we have assumed there is something outside of me. There is something inside of me. I have a boundary. And in that boundary, I am inside that boundary. That boundary is called my body. And I am inside that boundary. And outside that boundary is a world. And that world, not only is it there, first of all, it is there. Outside of me, there is a world. And inside of me, inside of this body, is the I. But the outside of me, what is there? That's extremely interesting, enticing, beautiful. Worth experiencing. Looking at means opening my ears, opening my nose, opening my mouth to taste, my nose, to fragrances, my skin to touch, my ears to hearing. That is opening one's eyes at a physical level. And we believe there is some great value in that. A value that is greater than the value of just being. Because if the value of just being was greater than the value of seeing and hearing and experiencing objects, which would we choose? If we were wise, would we not choose that which is more valuable? More valuable, why? Because it gives us greater bliss. It gives us peace. It gives us everything that is sought. If there is something, if there are scales in which one side of the scale is having something in which we get everything that is sought, and on the other side of the scale, maybe something that we seek, but also along with it, something that we do not seek, and sorrows and joys. This is the traditional way of weighing the scales, where they tell us, the Shastras tell us, the Upanishads tell us, your own being is bliss, and outside, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, whom we used to hear when we were children, used to say, you know how it is, the outside experience. It is dukhi, 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 sukhi, dukhi, 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 sukhi, dukhi, dukhi. That's how it is. It's mostly full of sorrow. It's mostly full of anxiety. It's mostly full of a burden. The burden of life which we have chosen to carry on our own head, that our own shoulders, strongly keeps weighing upon us and makes us bent with age finally, because we have carried this burden and carried this burden and carried this burden, and then we get neck ache and spondylitis and spinal problems and everything because we keep carrying this weight, right? And Bhagavan says, enough, I've had enough of carrying this weight upon my head, being parted from you. Paramanir pirindu பரமனாம் அருணாச்சலா என இனி உன் பதத்தினின்று ஒதுக்குறப்பாரே பரமனிற் பிரிந்து யூலகினை தலையில் பற்றியான் பெற்றது போதும். Oh Arunachala, I've had enough of carrying this world upon my head, having been parted from you. That's what he says. If we were to weigh the two parts of the scale, and if we had an inkling that one is the infinite bliss and the other is absolutely temporal, would we not automatically let go of that which is temporal? We have the story of Nachiketas in our tradition. Young boy. This young boy, his father was conducting a major sacrifice. He was giving away, he had planned to give away, I do not know how many thousands of cows. But then he had planned this sacrifice without taking into account his own means. So he could not give the best of cows. In fact, he was probably giving away cows which were not worth giving away. And this young boy was concerned for his father. He was worried. He felt my father is not just not gaining any good by doing this, by giving away such cows in charity, he's in fact incurring sin, he's incurring negative karma towards himself. And so the boy went up to his father and he didn't know what to do. And he felt somewhere, something deep within his heart, that he was very precious for his father. So he kept asking his father, Father, to whom are you going to gift me? To whom are you going to gift me? At one point, absolutely irritated with the repeated questioning by this child, and in a moment of anger, which the Bhagavad Gita tells us completely destroys all rational thinking, all possible right thinking, that anger of his father, the father said, I give you to Yama, I give you to the Lord of Death. The moment he had said that, the father was shocked by his own words. But then he had been a good man, so there was power in his words. And so the boy had to go to the kingdom of death. That's how the story goes. And so this young Nachiketas, he went to Yamaloka. But Lord Yama was not there. 3 days and 3 nights he waited. We could say, in a way, maybe symbolically, the boy went into a state of laya. He went into a point where time was not there. But he had the power to hold and wait. He had the power to hold and wait. He was a great yogi. He had already been gifted to death. He couldn't go, but he was waiting. And then finally, Yama did come. And Yama found this young child waiting for him. And must have thought, oh my God, this child, he needs to go back and live his full life. Father did something, but Okay, let's see. Then Emma asked him, no, my little boy, I've made you wait. So you can ask me for any boons. Three boons, I think. The young boy made good use of the first two boons. He prayed for his father and the goodness that should come to him, that he'll be forgiven and all good things come to him. And then in the third boon, this young boy said, I want to know the secret of death. I want to know the secret of that, which happens when all that is temporal comes to an end. Young told him, my dear boy, ask me for anything else, not the secret. I can't share that so easily. But you must relent because I have promised you the boon, right? So if you say it's okay, I will settle for something else, then I can give you something else. Nachiketas was not about to relent. He said, no, I want this. I want the secret of death. And Yama promised him the best of things in life. The very, very best of things in life was promised to this young boy. And what did Nachiketas say? I may get all the wealth. I may get all the friendship. I may get everything under the sun, O Lord of Death, Yama. O Lord, having enjoyed all that, having enjoyed everything for a long, long, long life also, ultimately, I have to come only to your doorstep. And I'm already here. So why should I go back to all that? Tell me, what is the secret of death? And then in that Kathopanishad, Lord Yama reveals to that young Nachiketas the secret. This is scripture, this is Purana, one may think, but it was brought alive for all of us. There was a 16-year-old boy, not so very long ago, in the year 1896. He also was at the doorstep of Yama. He was at the doorstep of death. He felt that death has come. Nachiketas was sent to death. This young boy felt death has come to me. And what did he do? He did not seek any other boons. He did not seek any other escape, but inquired into the meaning of death. And later he would record, as Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, when he wrote a prayer to Lord Arunachal to cure his mother's fever, to take her away from the clutches of death, to save her. In such a prayer, he ends the second stanza with a question. Ara ye kalaname yaar. Kalakalane ninna ಪದಕಮಲ ಹಿಡಿದೆ ಕಾಲಕಾಲಿಡದಂತೆ ನನ್ನ ತಾಯಿ ಬಳಿಗೆ ಕಾಪಾಡು ಕರುಣೆಯಲಿ ಪದ ಸುಮವ ತೋರಿ ತಿಳಿದು ನೋಡಲು ಆ ಕಾಲ ಸಹ ಯಾರು. What is death if scrutinized? What is time if scrutinized? And so Bhagavan Ramana, he tells us, don't worry whether time exists or doesn't exist, whether things are temporal or not temporal, whether they will come or go. But turn back, inquire about that which is. Yes, in a way, one understands in the inquiry that all else is temporal. Why hold on to something which is temporal? Can it give us lasting joy? Can it give us what we are seeking? What is it that we are truly seeking? Are we seeking a moment's joy? Can we be satisfied with a moment's joy? Even if everything that we want is given to us, will we remain satisfied for long? Will we not find new desires, new movements? Because that is what thought does to us. Objects do to us in the form of thought. Thought is the first primary object. It comes and tells us, come on, come, move, move, it says. There is something to be achieved. But like Nachiketas, if we say, at the end of that, where do I land up? Where do I land up? Because it will end. Every achievement of mine is temporal. It will come to an end. End, either physically or in my mind. I will finish with that task. I will lose interest in it and I will go on to the next task. If we recall what all was dear, very, very dear to us when we were 5 years old, when we were 15 years old, when we were 25 years old, even perhaps day before yesterday, are the same things dear to us now at this moment? Do the same things matter to the same extent as they did at that point of time? They don't even matter to us. Forget about whether they would be achieved or not achieved. So why is it that we do not value that which is our own true nature, that which is the greatest treasure, which Bhagavan says in Aksharamanamale, Tedadutra Nat Thiru Arul Nidhi. He says it is a treasure. What kind of treasure is it? It is the good treasure. Nal Nidhi. It is a good treasure. It's the best. Nal Thiru. It also means auspicious. It means Shri. It means all the wealth. Thiru Arul Nidhi. It is that great, extraordinary wealth of grace. And what is grace? He says, grace is the self. Grace is what I am. It is our own being. It is that which is ever available. So, Tedadutra. It is something which we have got even without having to search for it. But we have put ourselves in a condition where we have forgotten. We have lost sight of it. Where it is not of significance, not of sufficient significance to us. Every time a thought arises in our mind, and the thought says to us, this is the most important thing to be done right now. Is it possible for us to look at that thought, which is nothing but the enticement of Kala to Nachiketas, nothing but the promise which time is holding out before us? It says, if you do this, then you will achieve whatever you seek, then you will get your joy. It is making a promise, a future promise, as against the present bliss. And Bhagavan says, future, tomorrow. Have you ever seen a tomorrow? You have never seen any tomorrow. You need to get there. And when you get there, it will have already become today. It will no longer be tomorrow. And you'll have to try and reach it again the next day. Is it a possible search? Is it possible to be happy in tomorrow? One needs to be happy here and now. And so when the promise of time is and dangling before us tantalizingly in front of us, it's much like I'm told that in olden days, when mules or donkeys were very stubborn and there used to be donkey carts or mule carts, the owner used to tie a long pole at the back of the donkey or the head, which connected to the head of the donkey and went way ahead of the donkey, a little way ahead. And from that end of that pole, the owner would dangle an apple or some tasty delicacy, which the mule or the donkey would be very eager to eat. And the mule or the donkey would believe, if I move forward, there it is. There it is. So it would keep moving forward to catch hold of that piece of delicacy, which would always remain equally ahead of it, no matter how long it moves. Or Bhagavan Ramana says, if we are not really desirous of something in the world, but still, why are we caught up? It is possible that our anxieties are also keeping us caught up. It's possible that our worries are getting us to keep on holding on to something. We are trying to bury, we are not eager to get something, but we are trying to get rid of our problems. That Bhagavan Ramana says, is like trying to bury your own shadow. There was this man who said, oh my God, this dark thing is following me all the time, it's following me. And it's very difficult. I am sometimes surprised. Sometimes it comes in front of me also, surprises me. Sometimes it's behind me. Sometimes it's on the side, left. Sometimes it seems to disappear altogether for a short time. And then again it's back. So what I'm going to do is bury this thing for good. And then he dug a deep pit and he kept on putting mud into it. And what would happen? Was that? The shadow also will keep rising as you keep on trying to bury it. Because really speaking, there is never any end to problems. One problem will get over, but after some time, another new problem will come. This has been our lives. So Bhagavan says another way, another example he gives for this is about two friends who used to be great swimmers in their village well. The village well was a common well, very large, very deep. They were great swimmers in that. And then one friend after that growing up, he went away to Chennai. At Chennai, he was there, he was having a good job. The friend from the village came to visit him. And the Chennai friend said, come on, let's go to the beach. That's fantastic. You just have to see the beach. You'll fall in love with it. And then they went to the beach. And the friend said, come on, let's swim, said the Chennai friend. The friend from the village, she kept dodging the concept of swimming. He said, oh, look, those something is very nice over here. Let's eat some peanuts. Let's ride on the horse. Let's do something. Let's play in the sand. Whatever it was. But then the friend said, aren't you eager to swim? We both of us are such great swimmers. Then he said, yeah, of course, I would love to swim. But can't you see how turbulent the water is over here? We should wait till the waves subside and then swim. Then the Chennai friend laughed at him and said, my dear friend, that will never happen. The waves don't subside. But what we should do and what we can do is to duck under the waves. Let us get in. Let the waves be. And he taught him how to swim in the ocean by ducking under the waves. So Bhagavan Ramana tells us, close your eyes. How close your eyes? Duck under the waves. Normally when we duck underwater first, we will close our eyes. But afterwards, we may open our eyes underwater, but normally the first thing we'll do is close our eyes. So what he says is, Kupe yatha gadha jale tathantaha nimajya buddhya shithaya nitantam. As if a very precious object has fallen into a well. And you are a good diver and you want to get it back. So what are you going to do? Jump into the well. And what will you do? Pranam cha vacham cha niyamya chinvan. With your mind, he says. Normally he says, control the speech and control the breath. You will not be speaking when you are underwater. You will not be breathing also when you are underwater. Vinde nijaham kriti moola rupam. Search within for that precious object within, like you would search for a precious object that has fallen into a well. Forget about speech. Forget about your breath. Not necessarily controlling it consciously, but with the whole entire attention turning towards the self and the self alone, and not towards anything that can be perceived. That is what closing one's eyes means. Anything that can be perceived. It doesn't mean physically seeing. It means seeing with the mind. Not to see anything with the mind, which means not to experience anything with the mind, which means not to pay attention to any thought, any object. All objects rise in our experience in the form of thoughts. Every time a thought arises, it's the rising of an object. So Bhagavan says, without paying attention to that object, turn the attention back to the source, either through the question, for whom is this experience? Who wants to see this object? Who wants to experience this? Whose is this? Whose is this? Or, from where is the sense of I arising? Either one of the questions. You turn the attention away from the object. That is called closing one's eyes. No matter what the object is, no matter how dismal. See, sometimes, these anxieties, these griefs, these sorrows, these depressions, these worries, they are very attractive. They grip our attention like anything, much more than all the pleasantries in life. It's like watching probably a horror movie. People go, horror movies, I am told, are one of the most popular genres of movies. If you make a horror movie, you are bound to have a hit box office hit. That's what I was told by some filmmakers. You can make a comedy and it can fail. You can make a tragedy and it can fail, but not a horror movie. It doesn't fail. Okay. So that's how it is. It is so attractive. All our sorrows. So we pay attention to them. We pay attention to our sorrows. We pay attention to our hurts. We pay attention to that. But Bhagavan says, all close your eyes. That's what he told Jackie the dog. Jackie the dog was a great tapasvi, as I told you even earlier. Nai, Putina says, no, the dog comes to Bhagavan. Amma isi hasu. Bahudu rishi ede, muni ede, nai muddanu bayasuta. The nai came, he said, the dog came to be petted. Petted how? Jackie came to be petted with the Atmanubhava. He used to sit in front of Bhagavan and keep gazing at Bhagavan, just like that, Steady gaze at Bhagavan, Bhagavan alone. He was not interested in any other objects. One day they were outside, near the well. Bhagavan was sitting near the well. And Jackie was near him and looking at Bhagavan in his usual meditative manner. But suddenly there were some dogs barking. Outside dogs, some stray dogs. Probably they had come into the ashram or something. They were barking. And Jackie also started barking. Got distracted. He started barking. And Bhagavan told him, Jackie, close your eyes. Close your eyes. If you don't see them, you're not going to be disturbed by them. What does it mean? Would not Jackie hear the barking of the dogs if he closes his eyes? But Jackie understood. He closed his eyes. Meaning to say, he immediately understood he has to shut off all perception. You turn within. Close your eyes and turn within, Bhagavan told him. And he did so. And the devotee who describes this has narrated this or recorded this incident. Annamalai Swami says, the rest of us were paying attention to the stray dog which had come in, or the stray dog which had come in. But Jackie closed his eyes. He used to normally have his physical eyes open, no? He closed his eyes at that point and intensified his inner search, his attention within. He intensified. That's why physically also we close our eyes, because our eyes are responsible, they say, for 75% of our sensory experiences. So it is recommended that we close our eyes physically also. But the real meaning is that we should close the eye of perception, the mind's tendency or need to move outside. We can do this by telling ourselves, like Nachiketas, that there's no great point in turning outside. There's nothing going to be achieved. Actually, if we even look at our lives, sit down and see, what is it that we are achieving by our great work? We are not going to create a new universe, or we are not going to sustain the existing universe, or the earth, or the millions and millions of living beings on this earth itself, which are being maintained day in and day out. Are we going to be responsible for birth, death, causation, any of these things, these big things? No? What about the small things? Some things may need to get done, but Bhagavan Ramana says they will get done. If you remain in the state in which you need to remain, in that being, if you just if you just be, then everything that needs to get done through you will automatically get done through you. Surely that is the case even now. Even when we are hurrying and scurrying and running from here and there and thinking all this needs to get done and that needs to get done, how does it all get done? When we have no control over the next breath coming out or going in, how does everything get done? It gets done only by the automatic divine activity. But we are not aware of it. But once we get back to our own true nature, then we will become aware of the fact that every activity happens in the self. Tvai arunachala sarvam bhutva stitva pralinam etat chitram, says Bhagavan. All this world picture rises in you. It is sustained in you and it subsides in you. It is all only, there is nothing else. There is no other acting force. There is no other Shakti. In chapter 12 of Ramana Gita, when questioned about the Shakti, the power of God. Bhagavan says the power and the self are not different from each other. And then he sweetly says, if the power is there, everything happens. If you see something happening, then that's the power. That's the power, that's not you. That's the power which makes everything happen. But a few keep on saying, I need this to be done or that to be done, and you think that only power is important, only movement is important, only something happening, something being born, something growing, something dying, something changing, only that movement is important. Then the great ones tell you, you're forgetting the substratum, you're forgetting the being, you're forgetting that wonder, you're forgetting the ground. Without the ground, can there be movement? They point out to you, but actually they are the same. Sattaya hi chit, chittaya hai, says Bhagavan. And he gives a beautiful example. He says, there is the sun. And the sun, what all does the sun do? The sun in our scriptures is called the great Karma Yogi. The Karma Yogi, because there's not a day when he doesn't rise. He doesn't take any holidays. Sundays are not holidays for the sun. They may be holidays for us. That's how all the great, the earlier, when we were children, all those storytellers would always quote this as a joke. Sunday is not a holiday for the sun. So the sun never takes a break. And what all happens through the sun, even little bit as elementary school children, we learn, right? We learn that the water cycle happens by the sun, photosynthesis happens by the sun, because of which the plants are able to convert carbon dioxide into oxygen and give it back to us. Otherwise, how would we breathe and live? All that happens by the sunlight. Everything, the world, life on earth is because of the sun. But is it the sun that the sun thinks I have to do all this? Sun doesn't think that I have to do any of these things. The sun is a light unto himself, says Bhagavan. So if you are a light unto yourself, if we can understand that there is no greater achievement than just being our own true nature, and then turn back, because without love for that true nature, our efforts at best would be half-hearted. If one part of the mind is pulling me outside and one part I am trying to push it inside, it will pretty much stay in the same place, isn't it? Unless there is one pull which becomes stronger, if there is one conviction which becomes stronger, if we understand that everything is given to us in and by the self, there is no greater treasure, there is no greater goal, there is nothing else to be achieved, nothing that is anyhow being done by us. Everything is happening by that greater power and by the power of the self. If we look at our thoughts, okay, thoughts are arising from what? From where? And in what? What is a thought? What is a thought? Such a great thing it appears to be. Thought. It's nothing, but it's just an image. An image in what? Like an image, like a motion picture. The images in a motion picture are all light. All these images in the mind are nothing but the Chit Shakti, nothing but consciousness. If you look keenly at them, where from? Or what is that? What is the I? Who is the I? Which is creating this thought? Or where from is it rising? It is rising from consciousness. And it's not apart from consciousness. And it subsides into consciousness. It is sustained as consciousness. The form is nothing. It comes and goes. And that is why it's called transient. That is why it is called jada. That is why it's called insentient. All these are various descriptions to point out to us that they have no real existence of their own. And when one is so convinced by grace that one can turn back within, then we find succor, we find support in the path shown to us by Bhagavan, the path of self-inquiry. Because in self-inquiry, the question, who am I, is predominant. It gradually becomes stronger and stronger within us. And it eats up all the other things, because when there is the question, who am I? What can I be thinking about if I do not know who I am? What is worth achieving if I do not know who I am? How can I claim anything as my own if I do not know who I am? So whenever a thought arises, instead of following it, instead of running with the running mind, says Bhagavan, question it, turn it around, he says. Don't follow it. It will have us to understand, every thought has us to understand that the solution lies in further thinking. Thought is a great sustainer of thought. In psychology, we study that dreams support sleep. Dreams allow us to sleep a little longer. They don't support real sleep, but okay, they support the dream sleep. See, if we are hungry in a dream, we may dream that we have eaten something, or the alarm is ringing, or we may dream that alarm is ringing in the dream, and we have stopped it and we have woken up. Actually, the alarm may still be ringing. And sometimes we dream, what is this noise which is coming? We have woken up, we stopped the alarm, we're going about. Suddenly we realize, oh, that's the actual alarm, and then we get up. So dreams sustain sleep. Thoughts sustain thoughts. Thoughts don't do anything else. Thoughts don't give us joy. They can't. Thoughts don't help us to achieve anything. They can't. Because things happen either by the divine scheme, and things happen by the divine power. So what do thoughts help us to? They help us to sustain. That's why Bhagavan says at the very opening of Upadesha Saram, Kriti Mahodadhau Patana Karanam. Thought is an action, and what does it do? It leads to more and more and more and more of thinking. That's all. It doesn't do anything else. Phalamashashvatam Gati Nirodhakam. It will not give you what you're seeking. It may seem to give you some temporary fruit, some temporary satisfaction. And that too, why? By the subsidence of thought. Only when thought subsides, when the desire subsides, we experience joy, which is our own nature. And therefore, because of the subsidence of thought, we experience that joy. And we forget this. So Bhagavan says, no matter what the thought is, no matter whether it seems to be very important, whether it seems to be very reasonable, whether it seems to be very valuable, don't entertain it. Close your eyes, close the inner eye, close the eye of the mind. How? By turning away. There are two ways we can close our eyes, right? We can look at an object and we can turn away from the object. When attention is turned away from an object, we have as good as closed our eyes to that object. In fact, that's the best way of closing our eyes. Turn the attention away. Don't pay attention to that. Stop. So Bhagavan says, every time, turn back, turn back, turn back to the being. And then just be. Ask yourself, for whom is this thought? It is for me. Who am I? Don't allow any further thought to arise, because that would be again opening your eyes. Who am I? Just be. Allow the being to reveal itself. In case a thought arises, due to the power of our earlier habit of having paid attention to thoughts for so long, and it may arise. It often does arise. Let's not worry. Again, close your eyes, meaning to say, don't pay attention to the thought. Rather, turn attention back to the being. Who am I? Ask ourselves that question and allow the I to reveal itself in all its splendor as a wonderful, what can one say, as the being. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.